Hi, this is Joe Rabil with Rabil Stock Research. So what we're going to do today is I want to discuss some of the changes that are taking place in the market, and we're going to look at an equal weighted S&P chart to show some of these shifts that are taking place, because we've had the big cap names, the really huge, Mag 7 stocks actually going through what you could call a corrective pattern. But it's not hurting the market, and I want to show kind of the reasons why. But I want to start off with a lesson, and I want to show you what I call power trading combos. All right, we're going to use MACD and ADX to identify stocks that have real potential. A lot of these were on my reports over the course of this year, but I want to show what to look for when we're looking for this combination of settings and or conditions. All right, we're going to get through that, and then we'll go through the symbol requests that came through. Okay, so I want to jump through a number of different examples, and I'm using just two charts right now. I've got the monthly on the left and the weekly on the right. I think this is a good way to show this because I really want you to see the indicators more clearly. Sometimes they get a little squished when we have the 4 charts up. We'll switch to that. Actually, we'll have the 5 up when we go through the symbols that came through this week. But let's just start with the CRS, Carpenter Tech, which is a steel stock. And obviously, we could have been looking at this back in here as it was forming this kind of downtrend line. MACD was crumbing back above the 0 line, and we had a low ADX condition with green kind of being above. However, what I want to show, what I think is a more obvious and powerful signal for we're looking at power trading combos, right? We've got this strong move to the upside, and then we get a pullback in the form of a pinch play with rising ADX. Very strong ADX condition on the monthly chart, and we get this first pullback after the breakout. You see how we're breaking back, pulling back towards the breakout area with the pinch here, all right? And so we've got that taking place on one time frame. Now, on the weekly chart, we get this ABC correction back to the 40 after a powerful up move. You see how we got above the 50 level, and then this kind of works its way back while this is correcting. Now, the sellers are just not that strong. That red DI is showing us the strength of the sellers. Couldn't even get it back above 25. But notice how the MACD was way overbought back here in October of 23, and then by February, March of 24, this had worked its way back a lot closer to the 0 line. We're back to the 40. We have a flat 18. So we're looking for any kind of a sign to enter off this combination, right? This is the combination, is the MACD pinch play and 0 line reversal. But the reason why I'm very intrigued by this is we had a low ADX condition, and now the ADX is really strong. We had a really powerful ADX condition, and now the ADX has worked off that overbought condition. So that's one example. Let's just look at a couple more. So look at this CVLT. So this is a little different. This got going here, pulled back again, pinch play here, 0 line reversal here. The difference is we have a low ADX condition, not a powerful ADX condition. We're in a low ADX power, which I think is another way to look at a potential power trend. And that is we're setting up this, building up this energy for some kind of a breakout or up move. Now, here's the 0 line reversal area. It wasn't a clear signal. However, we got this, and what I tell a lot of times is we're looking for the 2 time frame pinch play here where we break out, make the higher low, and then that's kind of the kick in. But we want to make sure we have what we're looking for on the ADX. In this case, we had low ADX here and strengthening ADX on the weekly chart. All right, CYBR, low ADX condition as this works its way sideways. But really important to keep an eye out is when MACD on the monthly chart has worked its way back down towards 0 with a low ADX condition, right? And then we start to see power showing up, and we actually get a little mini reverse divergence right before this breaks out with the big green bar right here. All right. Look at FICO. Now, this is another one. We want to be on the lookout for the 0 line reversal on the higher time frame, on the monthly with a low ADX, right? If we get this combo, we want to be on the lookout for some kind of a breakout pattern or something like that. Now, what we can do is we can go to the smaller time frame and see the monster green bar that shows up after a low ADX pattern, right? And we'll just take this back a little bit more so you can see. This was a pretty clear breakout setup here. 3 peaks we broke through with a big green bar. That was the kickoff move on the lower time frame. And there were a few other opportunities since that time, but that to me was a really great entry with the zero line reversal. So look at something like Harmony Gold. This is really different. All right. We've got a 1 break of the downtrend line. This is the 1, right? 2 is the test. And then we're turning back up off the 2 with a pinch right at the 0 line, and green DI is starting to kick in with low ADX. Okay. So I've got this reversal pattern and I like to play off the 2. Now look at what happened on the weekly chart right around that same time. We had a 1 break of the downtrend line right at the 0 line, low ADX, right? And then we get the 2 moving up. We make the higher low with its own pinch play, and green DI starting to kick in again. Do you see how that combination? So we got this combination of MACD and ADX in 2 different time frames doing basically the exact same thing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If you get consecutive time frames doing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, that is the kind of combination we want to be on the lookout for, because most of the time you're going to be getting in pretty early. All right. IRM. So this is a little bit different. Look at how we had this powerful move. Look at the strength of the ADX on this time frame. And then we consolidate, and this continues to pull back while this is making a higher low. So this is a reverse divergence pattern on the monthly chart. Right. And then we get the breakout play taking place on the weekly chart. Low ADX breakout. All right. Very good pattern to be on the lookout for. PLTR. Look at the strength of the ADX here. All right. We don't have as much history, but we clearly have ADX strength showing up here. Then we get the ADX kicking into gear. Look at how strong this ADX is. Now, we've got a pretty obvious reverse divergence there, but look at this one. This was a little sneaky. This was a really good entry here. Now, this has been incredibly volatile, but if you use my method for using average true range to trail your stops and stuff, you'd still be in this trade if you had if you got a decent entry, which hopefully a lot of my subscribers did. A lot of these trades are ones where they get in and they get out and they trade them over the course of a weekly, daily. Sometimes I'm on the lookout for longer term plays, and this might be an example of a very volatile one, but it continues to move higher. All right, look at the PM. Again, keep an eye out for the 0 line reversal, low ADX on the monthly, all right? And we get this break of this downtrend line. Look at what happens on the weekly. We get the 1, we get the 2 is basically the pinch play, and look at the ADX condition. So one of the things I talk about in my course is if we have a rising ADX condition, we don't need to pull back to the moving average, all right? So that's another powerful condition in place. 0 line reversal and a pinch play. Nice combination there with, again, the strong ADX in play. Okay, look at something like TRGP. Powerful move here. We consolidate. We make a higher low here and we make a lower low here. Bulls still in command. You see how green stayed above red throughout this entire correction phase with the reverse divergence. And then again, look at what happens. We get a reverse divergence on this time frame. So we break out. You could have played the breakout, although that would have been a little aggressive. It was a reverse divergence there. But this one to me was the clean signal. And then you got the big green bar breakout to confirm. Okay, last one. Look at this TYL. So we get this move to the upside and we're sitting on the 18 while it's cupping around and we're forming a pinch play with low ADX. Okay. And then we get an ABC here. And then look at the big green bar show up. The big green bar shows up with the 0 line reversal, low ADX, right? So we get basically a 1, 2 developing here, and then we turn the corner and we get our little ABC correction right at the 0 line, and the big green bar shows up. My subscribers know to be on the lookout for those big green bars. So anyway, I thought these are some really good examples of using the MACD and the ADX together to find these powerful trends. If you're enjoying the content, hit that like button and also subscribe. So my services can be found at rabilstockresearch.com. I'm on this page right now. You can see at the top, I've got my advanced trend and momentum courses. There's 3 different courses now. I've individually priced them, or you can buy them as a bundle, and they are lifetime access now. So I changed that. It's not year to year. Okay. And then we have the individual package. I have about 2 to 3 reports each week, plus a special video, weekly video for that package that covers a lot of details into what I'm seeing for the week. So if you have an interest, go ahead and take a look. Also, the book is on the book tab. You can go if this is a good place to start if you're new to my methodology. My comments are for educational purposes only. Please do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions. So I'm going to start out with the QQQ and look at the IWM first, and then I'm going to go through what I was discussing about the S&P and the equal weighted S&P, and I'm going to give you some examples inside of each. I think you'll get a pretty clear picture of what I'm looking at. But what I wanted to point out here on the QQQ, and mostly that I think is important, is this relative strength line. And if you notice, when we get to the RSP, which is the equal weighted S&P, you'll see the difference that's taken place since this peak right here. Since we basically ran up into that high, we've seen deterioration on relative performance of the QQQ, which is heavily weighted by the Mag 7 stocks. All right. So the fact that this has dropped off is telling us on a relative basis. Okay. So doesn't necessarily, you can see on a price basis, it really hasn't done a whole lot. It's just consolidating, but it's losing some relative performance. We've kind of broken the moving average has started to roll over a little bit, just showing signs that we're going through a pause in them being leaders. All right. So I wanted to point that out because this is pretty blatant when you look at it with the QQQ. Now, with the IWM, and again, when I go through the RSP, I think you're going to see what we're trying to identify is new emerging patterns, stocks that look like they have the potential to break out of a base and have real strength behind them. Now, what's missing is there's 2 things that are missing. And I got a question about this this week regarding relative strength. And, do you do anything special with relative strength? Well, I like to look at it relative to its moving average and see if we can't get a reversal pattern looking at that, looking for the 1, 2, 3. However, what I do is anticipate a reversal in relative strength by what's taking place in the momentum. And what's missing here is momentum on this IWM. We don't have enough strength in this move. It's not really kicking into gear. We need this to basically break out again and see if we can't get this ADX to cross above 25. It hasn't been above 25 really almost 2 years now. We need this to kick into gear based on the buyers. And if we get that, then I think what you're going to see is improvement on a relative basis for the relative to the S&P. All right, we're going to need that momentum to kind of kick in. Now, I am seeing that on the RSP somewhat. Let's first start with the S&P though, and just look at what's happened here. We've made this move. We jetted away in late 2023, and we've made this monster kind of run. All right, the breakout point was back at the beginning of 2024, late 2023, basically we broke out, and we've just been trending to the upside, and we've gotten a little stretched away from this 18-month line. It's a good trend, but it's mature, and we're showing an ADX that was strong and above 25 through this whole year, now dropping off underneath that level. All right, so we're seeing sort of a slowdown in the momentum. And I think that personally is based on what's taken place in some of these Mag 7 stocks, taking a correction, going through a pause. It's not a real negative, but they have been pausing, and some of them have been dipping pretty good. But the overall market really isn't being affected by any kind of real drop. It's just more on a relative basis where we're seeing these big names not quite perform. So if we look at the RSP, this equal weighted, we've got a little bit of a difference here. The breakout really just took place not that long ago, and then it formed a higher low and it just broke out again. We haven't really kicked into gear yet on this monthly time frame because the ADX is still low. It's still under 20 at this point. But look at what's going on here. Different than the IWM. You notice how we're seeing pretty good strength in the ADX on this move to the upside. I think that's a good sign, and I think that's foretelling the potential for this to have upside continuation. Now, the other thing that I'm keying on is what's taking place on a relative basis. So you know where that QQQ RS peaked out was right around the same time that this bottomed, and we're seeing this improvement on a relative basis. Now, it isn't confirmed. We have gotten some strength here. I'd like to see this moving average turn to the upside and get a little bit more confirmation that we're seeing this equal weighted index truly take over on a relative basis. But certainly a lot of nice improvement dating back just in the last few months. So I think that's a good sign. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to first start off and look at some of these Mag 7 stocks and look at what's taken place. So we've gotten this drop for 3 months now in Google. Now, here's the bad news is, yeah, it's hurting the relative performance line. Okay, it's dropping off here. The good news is all we've done is pulled back to major support. We have really good conditions in place, right? We got this correction taking place, but all this has done is getting the MACD on the weekly chart back to the 0 line, and we've got a low ADX condition. We don't have a lot of strong selling taking place. Now, you got a little bit on the daily chart, and that's saying, you know, that this is probably going to take a little bit of time to lift off this 150 area, but there's no damage being done to this trend. Look at something like Amazon. Amazon came down to its support line here, the 18-month. You can see here, and we got this boomerang rally off of that level. Again, with good momentum conditions in place and no real selling strength based on the decline. We're back to the 0 line, and look at the reaction we got off the 150 support. So this one's actually recovering very nicely. Again, on a relative basis, it's been hurt a little bit, but I don't see the damage. I could easily see a little higher low form, and this could get back up and going pretty quickly. Now, if we look at something like Nvidia is going through an extensive correction, but look at how big of a move this made. This is just a huge upside move, and we've got buyers and sellers on both sides. So yeah, when this thing gets up over in extended levels, it does show signs of sellers. You can see that with the wicks on the top, but look at what's happening underneath. We've got buyers underneath, especially around this 100 area, and that's why we're getting the wicks and these candlesticks on below. So we've got support and resistance in place on this. When I look at that monthly chart, this doesn't look like a clean over a topping pattern to me. It looks more like a consolidation pattern, and it probably is going to go on a little bit longer to allow this overbought condition to come down, maybe get the ADX down to low again, below both of these lines, below 25 in a more clean way, and get maybe the MACD to come down a little bit closer to the 0 line. But this isn't bad, but yeah, in a short-term basis, we've lost a little relative performance. Okay. And then I also want to look at this META, because if you notice what's taking place here, this one kind of started its correction a little bit earlier in the year. And look at how this has just been working sideways while the MACD has been working off the overbought condition, as has the ADX. All right, we're looking at a pretty nice pattern here with reverse divergence, where this is making a lower low and this is making a higher low, and this just looks like it's getting ready to break out again. So I'm kind of encouraged when I look at a stock like this, which isn't really giving back much on a relative basis. So this is probably my favorite of the Mag 7 stocks right now. All right, let's look at a few of these kind of what I would call equal weight type names. They're not big parts of the index. I mean, they're not tiny, but they're not making like if this makes a big move, it's not going to automatically cause the market to go up or down like the Mag 7 stocks would. But look at the way this is basing and emerging. You see this huge base, and then we formed another base, and now we're emerging from that. Look at the improvement in the relative base on the ADX basis and the MACD turning. We've got nice action in the MACD on the monthly, and we're starting to see improvement on a relative basis. This is a stock that I think, if the market wants to continue higher, I think this stock has a much better chance of leading than something like Google does right now. It's just not, I think it's just in a much stronger position. Look at something like COO in the healthcare space. Look at this nice breakout that's just taken place. You see that? And we had a low ADX condition here and a low ADX condition here. So what do I say? If we have low ADX in 2 time frames with a nice pattern and ascending triangle, and we break out from that, look for any kind of weakness to be a buyer, because this is probably emerging. You can see the volume influx here. Look at something like PayPal, which has been dead money for what, almost 2 years now. And now all of a sudden we're starting to see some signs of life here. Good volume action. The ADX is crossing above 25 for the first time based on the buyers. Really in a very, very long time, 2 or 3 years now. All right. So that's a really good sign. And again, we're seeing some signs of improved relative performance. Now, not a whole lot yet. But again, I think if we're going to see the market move higher, I think a stock like this has a much better chance of showing real strength. Look at something like State Street. We're seeing a lot of the asset managers trade pretty well. Look at what's taking place here. We're breaking this longer term downtrend line. We've got the MACD turning up. We've got signs of new buyers showing some strength with the green DI. All of that is a good sign, and we're getting the relative strength to turn as well for the first time. This relative strength moving average line is getting very close to turning up for the first time since 2023. So we want to keep an eye out for stocks like this with big bases that look like they're emerging. Here's an industrial stock that hasn't done anything for a couple years, and now all of a sudden is starting to show signs of life on a relative basis, on a volume basis, on a MACD basis. And you can see the relative line improving, the momentum action based on the MACD and the ADX, and the volume. So that's the kind of thing I think we want to be on the lookout for. Now, a few of these were requests that came in. I wanted to include them in. And then here's a few more. Look at what's taking place on this RIVN. So we get, so I actually want to show this on the weekly. The weekly chart is trying to turn to the upside. We're getting this move to the upside with really good volume. And then during the pullback to the 18, we've got light volume. All right. Momentum is pretty good. What we need now is for the daily to trigger. Now, this is right out of my course. This is the pattern. This is the 2 time frame pattern I look for. We basically are trying to form a 1, 2, 3 reversal. What I want to see now that we've gone into the zone between the 18 and the 40 and come out, but not gone to a new low, we want to see this come back up, cross back above these 2 moving averages. And I think that would be a trigger back to the upside for this stock. And then lastly, let's look at this FLUT, this Flutter, another kind of smaller cap name, but look at the volume influx. You see the volume coming into this? And this is a really nice pattern that is just getting going. When you look at this huge base that's formed on the monthly, and now we're starting to emerge on the weekly. Again, it's pretty early, but the MACD is turning. We've got a pretty nice little combination with a pinch play that is already triggered in a zero line reversal. On the weekly chart with the low ADX condition on the weekly, and also the massive volume influx. Good stock to be on the lookout for. Thanks for watching. So if you have any stock requests, you can send them to stocktalk@stockcharts.com, or you can just put them in the comment area below. Also, if you have an interest in learning more about some of these techniques, you can go to my YouTube channel called Invest Like a Pro. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.